Okay. All right. Well, we're live. Um, thanks for joining us. If this is working and you can hear and see us, I'll do an intro to everyone, and then I'll sort of discuss what we're gonna talk about. But this is the team from Quantum and Woody, minus Ruth Redmond, the colorist. Um, but we've got writer Christopher Hastings. Want to say hi?
Hello. Hey, thank you for joining in today, and thanks for the whole team for being here for this too.
That was better than mine. That was great.
I was like, what? That wasn't funny. That was genuine.
No, just you just did a better job of introducing what's happening than I did, which is
Oh,
nice.
I've been doing some live stream or another like several times a week since we've been doing this. I'm very used to speaking into my laptop right now.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. And we've got the artist Ryan Brown. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ryan Brown. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. I hope your home is lovely and you're enjoying it.
And we've got editor Heather Antos.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Haas, for putting this together, and the folks at Home Comic Con. This is super awesome.
I've got technical problems where I've got a streamer in the background. Okay, it's gone. I can hear everything. I'm really sorry. I'm very unprofessional. If you haven't seen Strip Out Naked before, what the channel does is looks at storytelling in comic books, breaks it down, and occasionally we're lucky enough to kind of be joined by writers and artists and colorists who have a conversation with me and talk about how their work works. So we're going to do that for Quantum and Woody because we all work on Quantum and Woody, so there's some nice corporate synergy going on. And also, I should say we've got giveaways because today's like about raising money for charity as well. And we, if you donate, there's a link on the stream below. And if you donate, then money goes to charity and good causes. And also, you get put into a raffle where if you donate within this panel, you get the chance to win a Exo Man Award, one of the cool bronze. There's only like 200, I don't know, they're like a 1 in 250 edition variant or something, so they're incredibly rare. So you get a chance to win one of those. I've seen they're really cool. Like I think I've got one somewhere. They're very cool things.
Did they get sent to you already?
Not to me, but maybe to someone else.
Well, no, they will. Well, you will get one because you worked on the book.
I think
they came into the office like the week all of this went down. So
right. Well, I've seen the Quantum and Woody gold one, and which is a work
awesome.
of art. Yeah, they're really cool. Okay, so what I want to discuss to begin with, because it's quite interesting having an editor, because I've never done a strip pal naked with an editor before. So I thought the kind of back and forth between writer and editor don't like fall out with each other. We're going to get into this, but what's the process for you, Christopher, before we get into the actual specific pages, and like what's the script to, like what your script to before you give it to Heather to say, you know, what's going on with this? How do you feel about it?
Oh boy, you cut out, I think, a crucial part of that question. Would you mind repeating it?
That's right. Yeah. So what? Like,
I was really trying to put it together. I couldn't fake it. I'm sorry.
What stage of finished, like, do you want to get a script to? Is there a point where you kind of know that it's ready to get sent off to an editor?
Yeah. The way you asked, like, let's not have Heather and Chris fall out right now. I was really waiting for you to set up for like what is like each of your worst habits that pisses each other off. But no, okay. So I have with Heather and with the other editor Drew. I think we have a pretty good back and forth the entire way. So it started off with a phone call from Heather asking me to write up just a general pitch on the thing, and then I think I took like a week or a few days to just sort of write down brainstorming just a general idea of what I wanted to do with the series. And then that kind of got turned into a slightly more formal pitch that I sent to Heather. And then what happened at that point, Heather?
Yeah, at that point.
Because I wasn't in your office and I can only guess.
You weren't. Yeah. So backwards a little bit. I mean, when I got Quantum and Woody, Chris Hastings was the first writer in mind, really the only writer in mind. He and I have worked together for years prior on Gwenpool, and I really felt like he would bring to Quantum and Woody kind of that same humor, but still like super grounded in character, and like, you know, make us care about these characters that I feel are so often the butt of the joke in the Valiant universe. And um so yeah, we had a phone call, and Chris was familiar with the characters, familiar with the universe, and which makes it super easy because there's not a lot of I think reading or homework to do at that point. And yeah, Chris sent in the script, or sent in his pitch, and I read it, and I loved it. You know, there wasn't really any glaring red flags at that point where I was like, okay, you need to adjust this before it gets passed on. Like, I felt there was a really strong story there, and at that point it gets passed to head of sales, head of marketing, head of our publisher, head of editorial, and for all the different parts of the company to look at, and does this fit their needs for what they need for those characters, what they need for that book. And we had a couple little notes here and there, nothing too egregious. And it went back to Chris. We gave him those couple bullet points, and then he wrote us an outline for the first year, I think.
Oh, are we revealing that?
Yeah, we can. We
Okay,
can talk about that.
sometimes I'll mention that there's an issue 5 in the works, and depending on who from Valiant is around, I get a look. Yeah. But notes. I think there haven't been any real major disagreement type notes. It's usually like kind of strengthening the whole, or sort of helping make something clear. You know, we're all kind of going towards the same goal. But yeah, at that point, I think I went off and wrote the script for the first issue, and now we can answer your question, now that there's so much of that work that goes before you can even sit down and write a script. So I think working in the periodical style comics, it's a little bit different than like whenever I'm writing a graphic novel, in that I do send off first drafts of a script, which is unusual. But yeah, so
you have very clean first drafts though. Like that.
Oh, thank you.
They're very, very clean.
I one time accidentally sent in a Deadpool script that was not my finished script. It was a half outline, half script, and it included a lot of notes that I write to myself, because that's how I do a lot of my early stage writing. And it literally it was like page 11, I don't know, a friggin' fight or something, whatever. And then like notes came back on that script, and I was like horrified. I was like, no, you weren't supposed to see that. That's for me. I sent you the wrong version of the file. So that's what it looks like when it's not ready. But yeah, the script is just like all the panel descriptions are in a way that like the art team can understand what's happening and get drawing from them, and all the dialogue's in. That's what my script looks like when I turn it in. That's how I know it's done.
How much changes for you, like when, because I presume you probably wrote the first issue maybe without knowing it was going to be Ryan drawing it, or did you know?
I wrote a lot of issues before Ryan came on. I think it was only maybe the last 2 issues that I've written where I started imagining what it looks like whenever Ryan will draw it. But thankfully, Ryan has his own storytelling chops, where he knows where to go off book and kind of make it fit with his own style, and sort of amplify things and make things more clear and stuff like that.
I did it.
Well,
yeah.
I want to look at a page real quick, because this might be a good example of something to talk about. So here we go. Here's where everything will start to break. We'll do a screen share. Okay. So one thing that you've got to do, because we should probably say in terms of the format of each of these issues, is they're like a whole story in each issue, right? Which is obviously a whole other thing to juggle. And I think part of the way that you get around it, Chris, is there's quite a lot of dialogue in certain sequences to kind of get a bunch of exposition out that any other comic might have a few issues to do. But one thing I wanted to ask Ryan specifically is like, what do you do in terms of your roughs or your layouts to balance like a page like this, which has got a fair chunk of dialogue on it?
This one was pretty difficult, and in fact, the whole series is pretty difficult in terms of finding room for the dialogue, because we're telling so much story in each issue, which is how I like to make comics. So like this is exactly how I want to be doing things. So it's awesome and fun. But you know, I've never liked comics that are just conversations that last 10 pages or something. So so for me, this is like, I don't know, it's a fun challenge, but especially in sequences like with this entire family where there's 4 characters that are all talking, it's a lot of I read through the script. So this was just one page of introducing these characters and having them set up for a splash basically on the next page. So I staged them at the table and around the room where they are in order to match the order of when people are speaking as best as I can. And so with stuff like this, like this was a tough page, but like the way that you did the lettering helps you follow along through the course of the action and read it well. But yeah, no, in terms of my layouts, that's where I do all of my thinking. So my layouts take a long time, and then like I pencil and ink a page in like 4 hours. But that's because I've done most of my thinking when I'm doing the layout. So like my layouts are pretty detailed, and I'll do like expressions on faces, and I like using props for the actors to hold and gesture with, and give them something to be doing with their hands, so that it's a little bit more engaging for the conversation. And then I like to put in little Easter eggs and stuff, jokes for myself. I drew my cat back there, and then I drew like the pancake doesn't land in the pan; it lands on the edge of the pan, and he's got some broken eggs on the counter, and like little details like that. And then like riffing on sound effects, which makes it, like those are the little things that I like to try and put in my own like personal touch on them. But yeah, no, this was a fun page, a challenge, but a really fun challenge.
Well, Chris, I've noticed that you do this a lot in dialogue in this, but I don't know how much it breaks down between the two of you. But you tend to write dialogue where people are actually doing stuff, right? There's like action and dialogue, as opposed to people just sort of sat around talking heads, just kind of sat opposite each other talking.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a comic artist too. So I'm not drawing this book, but I do understand that it's a visual medium. I don't know. It's instinctual, I guess. But I mean, also that also depends on my relationship with an artist sometimes too. I remember, like whenever I was writing Adventure Time, it got to a point where I was pretty comfortable with both of the artists I worked with on for the longest time there, Zach and Ian, where I stopped bothering writing like what the character's acting was like, because I knew that they could pick it up from the dialogue. I don't know how many times I had to write like Finn is screaming, like he's obviously screaming. Like, oh, but it's like I will say what shape Jake might turn into, but yeah, I don't know. It's also like, I mean, that page where they were in the kitchen, it's like it is a single page to introduce a family, and you can't just have them all just sitting around. They need to be active, because every single moment here has to do triple duty on introducing who these people are. Like a joke can't be a throwaway joke. It has to serve the story. It has to serve the character, and that goes for the what they're actually doing as well as what they're saying. So it's like you see their family dynamic without having to read the balloons,
Is there anything in terms of the structure or pacing for getting a kind of whole story in one issue that this has taught you? Is there anything that you've learned either between you and Heather, like of like what makes a successful kind of one story in 20 pages comic?
Yeah, I've learned a lot. I'm excited to try to apply it to anything else I write in the future once the comic industry comes back. uh, my main takeaway is I basically kind of adapted sitcom structure to a comic book. There's a sitcom is 22 minutes. A comic book is 20 to 22 pages. You can literally break down the minutes in a sitcom to pages in a comic book. And they are so strict with their formatting, especially because they have to be with commercials, that they really is such an easy to look at and steal formula, where it's like pages 1 through 3-ish are a cold open, and then you have your theme song, or in our case, we have that page of here's the deal with Quam and Woody, and we just do this little recap page. And then you have to introduce the main problem, and then you have to get into a little bit about how it gets worse or even more complicated, and then you have to have the victory or failure, and then you have the denouement, and it's all like a certain page number for each thing, and it reads very satisfactorily when you do it that way, and it forces you to cut a lot of crap. It really forces you to think how to just tighten your scenes as much as possible, which I am writing way too much dialogue in a comic book here, so I'm still learning that.
Go ahead, Heather.
It's a thing that we discussed it from the very beginning, Chris and I, wanting to do this in kind of like a one and done, seasonal format, if you will, where there's obviously a bigger arc going on, but you can pick up literally any single issue and get what you need about the character and enjoy the story. And a lot of the success of how strong each of these issues is a credit to you guys on the rest of the team, because you guys are so good at what you do on every single level. It's very, very easy to take this sitcom format of cold open and recap and action and epilogue and make it feel very, very cookie cutter. But if you flip through every single issue of Quantum and Woody, Chris, you've done such a solid job of setting up in that recap of who Quantum and Woody are. You're setting up jokes for the rest of the series. You're setting up jokes for the rest of the issue, and Ryan Haas, you guys pick up on that and lean into it full force, and it's just it makes my job easy, honestly. This book is like my break. It's fun for me. So thank you.
We can stop the conversation now. That's all we were hoping
it's
for.
done.
There you
go. Well, Ryan, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some specific art stuff. And there's one thing that you do in a lot of pages is you have this kind of I can't really highlight stuff very well on here, but you have what I guess you would call like a feature panel, right? You have one panel that kind of seems to be either the scene setter or the thing that breaks the bleed or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, that's the first thing.
Script.
Oh, you're cutting out here. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is that something that you can kind of see straight away from the script, or is it something that develops when you're doing your roughs and your layouts?
When I read a script, I'll read through Chris's scripts once, and then I'll go back and I will start thinking about what the most important moment is on the page for each page. Because obviously comic illustration is a lot of smaller illustrations all working together on one page, and so you have to worry about how to get people to read them in the right direction, see the elements in the right order, because your reader is completing the story by reading the pictures together and combining them in their brain into a narrative. So if you had every panel be the same size, it's difficult. I'm kind of giving them the size of the panels to me kind of work like music in a movie, and that they will determine when things are more important or slower and more mundane. And so I try to figure out what Chris is intending on each page in terms of the most important beat. And usually that's So a lot of times it's in the script. It will be like a big reveal panel. Here's this, exciting moment. And then other times it will be, a 6-7 panel page, and I'll kind of into it, like what is the most important thing for me to show. And then sometimes it's what's the most fun to draw,
Right.
So like the page that you have up here, part of this comic being so like story dense, which again is what I love to do, and it's very, very fun. But you could have these. This is almost like 3 splash pages in one page, because you have them ripping off the roof. That could be a whole. That could be at least half the page. That could be a full page. And then you have him using his, kinetic energy thing, and then you have a hole appearing in the Capitol building. And so you have 3 huge moments on one page. So it's trying to determine like the pacing of it, and like the first panel is like more narrow, with the character looking up, the rocks coming from above, to kind of get the setup for the next one of them coming from above. So I'm always thinking about like action reaction, or before and after, in every single panel, so that they don't read like jarring moments. Like they read as like like emotion altogether. So like panel 4, the kid has got his hands glowing and he's ready to do the thing, and then panel 5 is the action kind of thing. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm always thinking about when I'm reading through his scripts. And like, as I said, like when I'm doing the thumbnailing is when I'm doing all my like critical thinking. And then usually when I'm penciling and inking is when I'm putting in little jokes that make me laugh. Like in panel 3, that guy's eyes going in different directions, and
I think I had to rewrite the dialogue for that guy too, like because I was like, I think he was saying something like slightly less unhinged, and I was like, this doesn't work.
yeah. I go a little off script every once in a while when I want to go a little, like, I don't know. I try to get silly, even when it's not necessarily a silly moment. So I hope that's okay.
You still keep your pages really structured though, which is what I thought was interesting when I was trying to figure out what to talk about with these. Is that even though there's kind of stuff breaking panel borders, and there's a lot of like background jokes and gags, you still tend to stick to a kind of 3-tier structure, right?
Yeah.
What is it about that kind of draws you to that?
Like communication is what I'm going for in this, like storytelling communication, like that's my number one goal. Like I'm not a cover artist. I'm not doing a single illustration. And I'm not necessarily doing drawings to be the most, beautiful or badass or exciting, like there's a, when you draw comics, you have to draw everything, so so when I'm working on a page like this, like again, like we're working in a pretty dense style, and so we've got 3 big moments here. We have the creation of the force field in the second panel, which is helped a ton by the color, so that really stands out. And then the murder of those 2 poor gentlemen in panel 4 was like clearly my like, I'm gonna draw some like big fun action here. And then in the bottom panel is like the reveal of the costume. And so that again is like we've got like 3 big moments in one panel, which is what makes this book so fun to read and like so satisfying. Is you're never lulled to sleep. You're always moving and moving and moving. And trying on this one especially to get really big with the acting of the characters, especially trying to figure out the physical differences between Quantum and Woody and like their build and how they carry themselves, and Quantum being more difficult because you can't see his face most of the time. And so those are the things I like to think about. Chris, what do you think about those floating dudes on those rocks?
I was just looking at those, and like I we put this issue to print a long time ago, so I haven't looked at it in a while, and I'm just looking at them, and I like they're fun and cute, and I don't know what they are, but whatever.
There's a scene later on where they where Quantum stops Woody from shooting one of the villains, and the laser fires off at an angle, and it actually hits one of those pink guys, and it kills him. And then his dead body is floating through one of the future panels, and the other guys are looking very sad about it.
That's great. Layers and layers.
They're like the watchers of the Valiant universe. They're just chilling.
Yeah, they're enjoying themselves.
It's one of those things where this, if I hadn't written so far ahead of Ryan coming on board, I would have done way more to incorporate these citizens of this other dimension in future stories. But it's like, I was like, sometimes there's just weird shit out there, and there's only so much we can do to acknowledge it before moving on. I think I rewrote a line for them just to acknowledge the fact
you
that
did,
these
yeah.
things are there, and that's like all we could fit.
Is that because one thing I guess that I never get to see is if there's any edits with the art. Is there ever a time on this so far where something's had to kind of change once Ryan's brought pages in?
Yeah, so part of the normal process is, Chris writes the script gets approved, it's passed to Ryan draws pages and does his Ryan thing to them. And then once we get all the pencils and inks in, it does go back to Chris to do a lettering pass, and which is where we get a lot of the dialogue changes, whether some moments happen a little differently or characters look a little bit more bizarre than serious, as that example there where the lines get adjusted, or some balloons just don't make sense to happen in the panel they were originally intended for. I think I had a talk with both Ryan and Chris before this. Like, I love them both as creators, but they do have tendencies to go a little zany and a little wild. And so I had a conversation with both of them before this. Like, I want that, but first and foremost, we need to care about these characters. And so I really don't think I've had to rein either of them in too much. They really, I feel, took those comments to heart originally. And honestly, the only major art tweaks we've ever had to do major is just just little continuity things that'll happen, like accidentally putting the armbands on the wrong arm.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm so aware of who wears what on what wrists, and then for some reason, like rotating them, like I'm like, oh man, this will be cool if Quantum is pointing with his right hand, and like that's a cool composition, and I'm working so that he's on the right side he needs to be on for the dialogue. And then I'm like, yeah, but I want to see his wristband, so I draw the wristband, and then I don't think about it, and then I finish inking it, and I'm just like, what was I thinking? He doesn't have a wristband on that wrist. Yeah. And so a lot of my you catch a lot that I don't even catch because I change it in the computer after I've drawn it many times.
Really? Oh no!
I screw it up all the time, and I'm so aware of it, and then something just turns off some sort of communication
cool.
error in my brain.
It's you just get into the but it looks cool. It looks cool.
Yeah, it looks cool that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, no, go.
Oh, I was gonna ask about you, Haas, because you do a lot of stuff. This book is our first, aside from EXO, this is our first experience working together, and I've been a huge fan of, your work as a letterer and a designer for a long time, and so this has been a pleasure for me. And I'd be curious to hear about your process in this, because you do a lot of things and make a lot of choices that I love and am fascinated by. You'll pick. No, you can. It's true though. Like, I love it.
Your stuff's awesome.
You're
so good.
incredible.
I love the lettering.
Yeah,
like thanks.
You make so many strong choices that I feel are, if it weren't for your skill and level, like, could turn this book into chaos. Like, there's a lot of different fonts, there's a lot of different colors, and it all works. It's all seamless. It looks so cohesive and like meant to be. And like, what is your thought process, especially with a book like Quantum and Woody that is so colorful and chaotic? Like, how do you pick, you know, when to use color and things like that? I know that's a broad question, but like
no, I'm not used to being asked questions doing these.
sorry, but like you know, like we're talking about breaking down the panel. Let's break down the panel. You're a part of it.
Well, it's I don't know. The thing, what I think is I just try and go as big as possible, and then if it's not working, I feel like someone will tell me. So I think I would rather shoot for something that may not work like that effectively, or maybe too much, and have someone say, okay, let's bring that thing back, than not go there at all.
For sure.
And go for something that's a bit safer. Because I think, for me, it's just like you just have to engage with the work, right? So when I saw Ryan's pages, I think the first ones I got like 5 colored ones first, so which was useful because I can kind of see how the whole thing's going to work. But yeah, you could tell that Ryan was doing like a lot, and he was putting a lot on the page, and so it felt like I had to. It's a bit like a band, right? Where if your lead guitarist is like doing this kind of crazy solo, but you don't want to be like out of time in the background, like can't keep it. You want to kind of keep up with the rhythm. So that's kind of what I was trying to do. I wanted to make it look like Ryan was making the choices rather than me, like I was making the choices. That Ryan was lettering it himself. And so if Ryan's doing all these kind of crazy things, like why wouldn't he be doing that in the letters as well? So I was just trying to make it feel like you did it rather than I did it. If that makes sense.
And Ryan's also like, he's stealing a lot of your sound effects, right? That you usually
it makes me look good.
So
oh man, I always love having the sound effects be part of the art, but the way you've been lettering this is just it frequently will get in this mode where it's like really feels like it's integrated with the art, and it's not just balloons pasted on in the proper order, which like so it really like folds in with the art so well, and the way that you highlight some of like the acting I'm trying to do by using different typefaces or increasing the size or the color, it's just so fun. It makes it so much more fun than if you just followed all the rules and just put all the balloons in the right place.
Like not saying that other letters don't read the scripts or things like that, but it really shows that you're reading these scripts, and it really shows like you are thinking about each and every balloon and each and every line of dialogue, and it's so organic. I mean, I don't know if you have the page as one of the ones you pulled, but it's that fun climactic moment in issue 1 where Quantum is punching through the shield.
I didn't pull that one down. Yeah.
Everyone's favorite balloon, everyone's favorite panel from that issue. It's the one that people commented and sent to me the most. Like that wasn't in the script. That wasn't in the script to do it like that, and you really took the initiative and made it a fun moment, like even more hilarious. And I don't know, it's great. You're awesome. You're all awesome. This is the best team. This book is great.
I think it's the same, like, because it's just what like Ryan was saying about going crazy on Chris's scripts. I think you just you want to do that with. I think Ruth does the same thing with colors. I think you just got to do that with like, when you get everyone working on that level of just going like, well, let's just do some crazy stuff. Like everyone's trying to. It's some. Like I feel like I want to try and outdo Ryan a little bit. But then you get to
go ahead,
page
man.
like, oh, no,
I'm fine with that. You can be the star of the show. I don't need that.
Yeah, you know what? Make up your own dialogue too while you're at it.
Let's go.
I was gonna make a joke about actually reading the scripts, like who reads the scripts, but I didn't want to. Everyone was being so nice, I didn't want to make a gag about that afterwards. But you can see it in the pages, man. When everyone's doing this, everyone's doing that. Everyone's trying to get to that next level, which is nice to see. So I think it makes you want to do the same thing. We've gone off the rails. I'm not used to getting complimented. I'm not used to. But let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about character stuff, because we sort of mentioned it with Ryan's interesting a character with the eyes looking off in different places. But your character work both in the script in terms of like the actual writing with Chris and the characterization of the page are so interesting. Like there's the guy from issue 3, which I think I pulled down somewhere, the guidance counselor character.
Oh God. Oh.
There he is.
Handsome man.
Chugly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chugly.
Chugly.
What you put? How much do you put in the script, Chris? Like for Ryan, like what are you kind of signaling, and what do you want? Like how much work do you want to do before it gets to Ryan in terms of like that kind of building that character?
I think I wrote that he was a creep. And then I think I remember it may have been a second draft of a script before it got to Ryan, or it was just this one moment where I was like, I think I wrote something along the lines. I was like, oh, like he's not like a super villain, but like I don't know, give him like a Galactus headpiece or something just to like spice it up. I don't know.
I think you said he was a bad Kirby villain.
Yeah,
sure.
You definitely had Kirby in there, which was like super exciting to me.
Okay.
I was like, oh, this is the drawing where I really like can do something really dumb. And you know, it's one of those things like, all right, there's so many different choices I can make here. Like, what does his headdress look like? Does he have the letter C on his crotch? Like, what's
for counselor, sure, or Chugly. Yeah.
Well, it's a double C. Chugly counselor.
Or for creep.
Or creep. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah, no, that was I was so excited about this character. And then, you know, in the script, it's just like, well, he's not actually like he doesn't have any superpowers. He's just this guy wearing this costume.
It's kind of like it's that world where it's like if you manage to do do something extraordinary enough that it gets into something that's slightly comic booky, well, you need to wear a costume about it. You know, like it's that kind of logic.
I like that phrase. I'm stealing that phrase. You need to wear a costume about it.
Yeah. It's kind of like a Venture Brothers kind of logic to it, with this guy particularly.
Did you notice when he gets murdered that he gets punched and he hits an airplane that's flying by?
Yeah. I totally noticed that.
He comes back too.
Oh, good.
He survived that.
Excellent.
Yeah. Again, the issue 5 that I may or may not be allowed to talk about.
Can't wait.
I can't wait for you to draw it, Ryan. That's all I'm gonna say.
Awesome.
Ryan, is there anything that you're doing in terms of like, because I mean there's this, each of these characters have got a kind of particular like the way that they move. Even you've kind of got like lanky characters, you've got kind of stubby characters, and this guy has a very particular spherical kind of design going on. Is that stuff that you're putting down like even in the roughs and the layouts like that early on to, or is this something that you designed away from the pages?
I design everything on the page, just from a speed standpoint.
Right.
But my characters, I think of my characters always as Nintendo ice hockey characters. Remember Nintendo ice hockey?
Yeah.
The skinny guy, the fat guy, and the medium guy.
Right.
So that's kind of my start is which one of those characters are they, and then I try to all my human characters, at least, I try to base off of either a person I know or an actor in a in a film, and I don't ever like look up photo reference of them, but it's just like what the impression is in my head about how they move and how they act. So like this guy is based off of, it's a little John Polito and a little this guy that ran the bowling alley near my house. So
right.
But that's usually like, because otherwise I'd just be like drawing like the same face over and over again. You know, the face would be comfortable, but I like to try and just like, again, I'm not doing like, I'm not trying to make it look exactly like this person, but like I'm using that as like a starting template when I'm thinking about drawing the person. So
would they, in this instance, you think they'd be flattered?
Yeah. Sure.
So are you designing even like, like the background contraption of this page? That's just all stuff you're like just putting down like on the page as you draw it?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that kind of stuff. I forgot what
In a
artist
good way.
talked about it, but like that kind of stuff, like there was an artist who referred to it as doing the laundry,
Right.
or folding the laundry. That's what he said, folding the laundry, where it doesn't have to make sense. You're just kind of doing like the mechanical weird stuff that like I usually do. And I'm just kind of filling space with it in perspective. So like none of it actually has to make sense. It just has to kind of fill space and like get the idea across. So
Right.
yeah. So I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, like I guess there'd be a lot of like hoses, in this, and then like the colander hat is a Ghostbusters reference, and so like there's some practical thinking, but then once you get down to like drawing and inking it, you're just kind of filling space and folding the laundry, I guess.
I like, that's a good term. Chris, is there anything that you treat differently when it comes to writing? Like, I'm trying to grab an action page here. Or something that's a bit more like say this page. Do you treat writing action in a different way than you treat writing, say, a more sort of dialogue focused page, like the kind of family from the first issue? Like, do you approach them in different ways, or do you still break them down full script?
I usually break them down full script. Sometimes I don't. It really depends on whether or not I have a clear choreography in my head that matters. Like if I know that I need, if I have a 3 beats of an action in my mind that I know needs to happen, and if not, I'll just write like, they fight, do it however you want. I think I literally have that in an upcoming issue where I was like, I don't know, they just need to wail on each other while they talk for a minute.
That is
like,
no, that is on there. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, I don't need to say exactly how it happens. Have fun. But in this case, it was like I did need to specifically, let's see, from panel 1 starting, it's like we needed to have the cops shooting at the bad guys while Woody shows up, and then we needed to have the cops shoot at Woody while Quantum shields him, and then we needed to set up that how the dad's powers works with these energy knives that poison their bodies and make them explode. So it's like that was kind of a specific. I didn't need to call out the panels for those.
Yeah, I think so far every action thing we've done, you've structured it for me, which makes my job a lot easier, honestly. But yeah, like this, all those beats are, I think every single action panel we have, all the beats are exactly what you said. So
you add panels, which I am always stunned when an artist decides to add panels.
Every once in a while, I think about like a little moment that'd be fun to like key out.
Yeah, that's always great. I mean, but yeah, like as we're saying, this is a dense comic book, and part of that is that I am writing higher panel per page averages than I normally would. So I'm stunned whenever you add another one.
Chris,
sometimes sometimes you drop them out too, which that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the scripts for the most part are so tight that I really don't need to change anything at all. And sometimes it might be just that I didn't read the page well enough. That has definitely happened. That happened in issue 2, where with all the animals that were joining, I thought that I had read that they were getting pulled apart at the end of the panel, and then that they were blown apart at the end of the page, and then on the next page everything was fine, or like it was like a reveal of all the animals having been blown apart. But then when I was inking it, I looked at the script again. I was like, oh man, that beat was supposed to be the first panel on the next page instead of the last panel. So
that's so funny. See,
yeah, no, that was me screwing up. That wasn't.
I thought it was you like knowing how to do it better, which I think subconsciously is how it worked out, because you read it, digested it, and then your brain, you thought it goes like this, which is your own storytelling instinct. So I'm not going to argue with it, even if you are saying you screwed up.
Yeah, it was unintentional.
You screwed up for the better.
Yeah, it's
there
like,
you go.
I put out a book one time where I forgot a page, and nobody noticed, which means that page was not necessary. And I was like, oh, like the screw up revealed something that did not need to be there, and things worked out better.
Happy accident.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great. Is there, Chris, is there, as a cartoonist, like, how do you think that aids you in terms of your scripting approach? Like, are you thinking visually with each page, like how you would draw this? Like, is it manageable to do this? Or do you kind of separate the writer side from the kind of artist side?
Generally it is, I think, beneficial that I know that characters can't do 3 things at once in a panel. That like you can't have like I can't have a an establishing shot that also describes like what is like in a magazine that somebody's looking at through an apartment window. Like I have a pretty good idea of that sort of stuff, but I still mess up because I'm not actually having to physically draw it. But I think it helps. Yeah, to like know what is physically able to be drawn there.
Yeah, and your scripts read like someone who has a visual sense and like knows how to position characters in a room and structure a scene. So it definitely like helps a lot as an artist reading your scripts, that you are really thinking about how you would draw it, and that helps me.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. It's like I'm describing this, and then like me, that reaction was me realizing I was like, oh, I've very rarely drawn for other writers, so I don't know what other people's scripts look like.
Yeah, I mean they're all over the map. I mean, I can get scripts where you're describing every piece of clothing the person's wearing, and then against scripts where it's just these 2 guys having a conversation and there's no information about their environment at all. So somewhere in the middle is usually where I prefer it.
Sure.
Heather, is there something that this is going to be a hard question to ask and maybe a hard question to answer, but
Perfect.
without getting too specific, I guess, on certain things, but do you have like an idea of what you are going to be doing on each book after you've done a couple of issues? Like, is Quantum and Woody, is there a thing that you're kind of doing more on Quantum and Woody than you might be doing on Exo or something else? Like, what does Quantum and Woody require of you that other books may not?
Yeah, so it's Quantum and Woody, we're doing this unique thing that we talked about before where it's the one and done issues. And so I'm very grateful and that Chris and I were able to get started writing well in advance of an artist, drawing well in advance of print and publication, because we are building to something pretty big, and it has allowed us to our entire first arc, our entire first 4 issues. Chris was able to go back and tighten up, and we were able to work on together to make sure okay, this is as solid as it can possibly be before it goes to Ryan to draw, because there are a lot of things that might seem superfluous or ancillary, little background one-liners or visuals or whatever, that are actually building up to something pretty big. And so for Drew and I, my assistant on the book, we're always keeping that end goal in mind, and what can we do here that will help make that payoff, extra sweet and really feel like we have been planning it as long as we have been. And as we're working on more and more stories with it, that's what we're always keeping in mind is remembering, it's a roadmap, right? It's remembering our destination. And yes, the journey might change and shift along the way, but let's make sure it's as fun and an adventure to get there as possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a nice sentiment.
Yeah. So no, I mean, it's a thing that I'm very fortunate, and I've said this before, Chris and I, we've worked together for a very, very, very long time. I feel like we have a really solid rapport with each other. And I trust him to do what he's doing. Ryan, same thing. Ruth and Juhas, the same thing. That my job as an editor is less making sure you guys are good at what you do. I trust you. You're good. You're going to make this the best book it can be. Now it's just, let's make sure the details are all there, which is an editor's joy. Like, I wish all books could be like this. Yeah.
Well, I can keep drawing the wristbands on the wrong hands for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Give me a lot of notes.
Thank you. I really, curse you.
Does the density of like the fact that there's so much like plot going on compared to like a story that might be taking place over 3 or 4 issues or whatever instead, does the density of that make those details harder to keep track of almost, or is it kind of just the same regardless of the length of story?
I feel like it's the same. Like for me personally, just kind of my brain works very, very quickly, and I'm able to like multitask and focus on a lot of things all at once. And so like, I feel like I'm able to compartmentalize those details in a way where like, I look at the one and done first. And does this make sense? Does this make sense? Does this work? Is it funny? Is it strong? Like, is the pacing all there? Yada, yada, yada. And then it's, all right, what are the beats that are adding to the bigger party, at the end of the line? And are they there? Are they stronger? And I feel like that's a lot of where my notes are with Chris usually is, well, let's not forget this, with that, because I can't say it. I can't say anything in this, I don't want to spoil anything. But that's the majority of my notes, I feel, are about the bigger picture, the macro of everything is, oh, we haven't seen this character in a while, or, I know we created this thing for this specific issue, but let's tie in something else to make it more cohesive and callbacks and all of that stuff.
I feel like a lot of your notes are also cut down this scene to add to this other scene a little bit more. It's usually just a little bit of rebalancing.
Yeah.
That happens pretty frequently.
Yeah. Yes. Just some, I'll notice, Chris will really like a joke and really like a moment, and it will be fun, but it just, that's not the moment that the script will be about or the issue will be about. And so we need to just kind of like change our lens and shift it over just a little bit. So, which I don't know if he ever hates me for or not, but
no, I'm very good at taking notes.
That's the thing that I'm always in awe with the script is like, because it's so different than most of the things that I work on. Even just on the script level, not including what Ryan does with the art, but like the script is so dense that like that's the thing that always boggles my mind is like keeping track of.
Oh man, Haas, you get a version that I actually cut a lot out of. For your benefit. I really do. I will just strike whole stuff out of panel descriptions because I know you don't need it, and I just want to make it a little easier for you to read. So yeah, you're not even getting last.
Send me the crazy one.
I'll send you after we're done with this, Haas. I'll send you the actual script for number 1.
Okay, that sounds cool. Right, well, we've got like 5 minutes left. So before I'm going to give you all a chance to ask each other one question. But before we do that, we've got a winner for the Exo Man of War. Very rare variant.
Is it me? Is it me? Please say it's me.
It's not. In fact, we're taking one away. We're taking your gold Quantum Woody away from you.
No.
Yeah. So the winner is Sheldon Moore. Said he wants to help out any way he can to reach the goal. We're doing pretty well. We've raised like $1,300 so far, I think.
Hey,
pretty
good.
Yeah, that's good. So someone will be in touch with you. This is very professional, but someone will be in touch with you, Stephen. Sheldon, sorry, about this, and you'll get an issue into your hands. But we have got like 5 minutes left, so I thought it'd be fun. I don't know if we've drained all the questions, but if each of you have got one question that you want to ask someone else on the panel, it doesn't have to be about Quantum Woody, I guess. It can be about anything.
Oh man.
Okay.
Chris, do you want to go first? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Sure. So, Ryan, what was your least favorite thing to draw so far? The book.
Oh, that's good. I think the recap page on issue 2.
Okay, That's so funny. That's because it's such a fun page when you have them like sliding through.
Yeah, we're sliding through. Yeah. They were just, those recap pages are definitely the hardest pages to draw of every issue.
They're very dense.
They're very dense, and they're
the densest.
Yeah, and they need environment every time. You know, every panel needs an environment, and it's always like changing. So, yeah, with that one, it's just trying to break down the information and fit it all on one page is always very, very hard. But they're great pages. Like, they really help with the emotional heart of the book in general. So I just put them off for a while. Like, I'll skip this, and then I'll figure out fitting
pages,
it in.
Yeah.
It's the last page I write for every script.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I write the whole rest of the script, and then I'm like, okay, what in this do I need to set up in the recap page, and then I'll write it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And I think I made that one harder for myself by doing the quantum, or Woody sliding through the panel border, and then I don't know why I drew that headdress so big on the ice skater, but there's so many flowers.
It had to be big enough to hold the monster underneath.
Yeah, I think I went a little bigger. It's big.
Like textured different types of flowers, which you didn't have to do.
Yeah, man, flowers are fun.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah, flowers are fun. That was fun. I was a little worried about the sound effect of deflower when they rip the flowers off his head.
I thought about that one so much. I the internal debate that I had, because I think it's so hilarious. I think it is so funny. And then I'm just like, but is it appropriate? Is it appropriate? Am I gonna get my ass chewed? You know, like
I tried to move the sound effect away from the people and up towards the skull brain man.
I decided I was like, I'm gonna put it through, and if anyone else says anything, then we'll revisit it. And no one said anything. So
oh man.
Well, Heather, do you want to? We've got 3 minutes. So
yeah.
do you want to take a question for someone?
I'll question Chris. What has been the most difficult scene for you to write in this?
Let's see. Difficult scene to write. I guess
the first 3 issues.
Yeah, I should leave it to the ones that have come out. Oh, let's see. Okay, so issue 1 was the Senate. Issue 2 is the
Toilet ice cream.
Yeah, and then issue 3 is the school. Let's see here. I think Quantum's training was hard to write in issue 3 because I don't understand quantum mechanics at all. I only recently found out what a quantum is, and it's a dumb name for a superhero, which is that's part of the joke. Clearly, it like sounds serious when it means like means tiny individual, like it's the smallest thing that can exist is a quantum unit, which I think is really funny. So it's like I had to throw a lot of pseudoscience bullshit at it with like sort of grand like kind of this is the meaning of the universe and the powers inside of you and all this superhero stuff. And yeah, so that was like just weird dialogue to write. Not that it was like particularly emotionally difficult or anything like that. That comes later in the book.
Ryan, do you want to hit us with our last question? You've got 1 minute.
Oh man. I don't think I really have a question. I'd rather just like compliment Chris on his scripts because I think that they are fantastic and like up there for the most fun things I've ever drawn. And the fact that we can get so silly but have legitimate stakes and a lot of heart and emotion, I think is like it's amazing that you can pull that all together.
Thanks. I can't wait for that 4th issue so we can see how it all comes together.
I know.
I think some people are like, wait, this is part 3 of 4. What the hell are they leading up to?
Yeah.
No, it is. It's coming together. I swear.
It's half
Yeah.
drawn. It's half
Yeah.
drawn.
It is, and they look great.
I had to decide. Well, one thing that I have to decide on, like, especially that script, is like, since issue 4 takes place in like, it's one long moment. It's not like a bunch of different like periods of time. So
There's a couple flashbacks here and there.
Yeah, but when I have to go through the entire script and decide what they're going to be wearing, and like on issue 4 especially, I was like, should Quantum be wearing his mask or not? Because when he wears his mask, it's a lot harder for me to like emote, and so I had to like.
I really like how you make him emote with his mask on.
Thanks.
I think you do fun stuff with it.
There is one panel where it says he cringes. And so then I just wrote the sound effect of cringe, because I was like, well, I don't know if I can make that read without a mouth.
No, but that works though. Your
You do
sound
that
effects that you add in are they're so good.
That was more thriller. Thriller.
Listen, man, you're the artist. Make it work.
Yeah.
Fix it in post. We'll fix it in post.
But yeah, and then sometimes I've written like a funny thing on like Woody's shirt, and then I realize that, oh, this is like the same scene. I have to keep drawing this on his shirt. Yeah, I don't remember what my point is, but that's fun.
That's what a way to end it. We are over our time, so I'm gonna get everyone to say goodbye and thank you. And if you're watching this, keep watching, because there's more panels coming up for the rest of the day. And also click on the Tiltify link, which is in the description, and give some money to the charity. And yes, do some good things with the rest of your day. So thank you, you 3, for taking part in this. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks for having us. This was super fun.
Yeah, thanks, man. This was great.
I also thank you.
I thank Chris for thanking you.
I have no idea if we're still on the air, but I guess I'll just say thanks, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right.
Sounds good.
So nice to see and talk to all of you.
Take care,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.